The photo came through at 8:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was sitting in my home office, reviewing quarterly reports for a presentation I had to give the next morning when my phone buzzed on the desk. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something made me pick it up. The message was simple, just 4 words and an attachment. Thought you should know. And then the picture. It took my brain a few seconds to process what I was seeing. The image was slightly blurry, taken from a distance, but clear enough. A restaurant interior, dim lighting, candles on tables, the kind of upscale Italian place where a decent meal costs more than most people spend on groceries in a week. At a corner table, partially obscured by a decorative plant but unmistakable, sat my wife, Emily. Her auburn hair was down, falling in those loose waves she only wore when she wanted to look special, when she was trying to impress someone. She was wearing the emerald green dress I had bought her for our anniversary last year. The one that made her eyes look impossibly bright, the one she said was too fancy to wear anywhere except special occasions. And across from her, leaning forward with his hand covering hers on the table, was Marcus Webb, my business partner. The man I had known for 12 years, had started a company with 8 years ago, had trusted with half of everything I owned. They weren't just sitting together, they were sitting close, intimate, the way people sit when they're sharing secrets or confessions or something deeper. His thumb was moving on the back of her hand, a gentle caress that spoke of familiarity, of practice, of this not being the first time. I stared at that photo until my eyes burned and my vision blurred. My hands were shaking so badly I had to set the phone down on the desk. The room around me felt suddenly unstable, like the walls were tilting, like gravity had shifted and I was sliding toward some invisible edge. I could hear my own breathing, harsh and rapid in the quiet office. I could feel my heartbeat in my throat, in my temples, pounding out a rhythm that matched the single word cycling through my mind. No, 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 no. I picked up the phone again, zoomed in on the photo. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe it was someone who looked like Emily. Maybe the lighting was playing tricks. Maybe this was all some terrible mistake. But the more I looked, the more details emerged that confirmed what I already knew in my gut. The small scar on her left eyebrow from when she fell off her bike as a kid. The delicate gold necklace with the small diamond pendant I had given her on our 5th anniversary. The way she tucked her hair behind her right ear when she was nervous or excited. It was her. It was absolutely, unmistakably her. I called her number with trembling fingers. It rang 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, then went to voicemail. Her voice on the recording, bright and cheerful, asking me to leave a message. I hung up without saying anything and immediately called again. Same result. Again. By the 5th attempt, my calls were going straight to voicemail. She had turned off her phone. I tried Marcus next. His phone rang once, twice, then was declined. The sudden silence after that second ring was like a slap. He had seen my call and rejected it. He knew. They both knew. I stood up from my desk so fast, my chair rolled backward and crashed into the bookshelf behind me. I paced the small office, 5 steps to the window, 5 steps back to the door, my mind racing through 1,000 thoughts at once. How long had this been going on? Where did she tell me she was tonight? I tried to remember the conversation we'd had this morning over coffee. She'd been distracted. I remembered that now, scrolling through her phone instead of looking at me when I talked about my day. Had she said she had plans tonight? Was there a lie I had believed? I walked out of the office, through the hallway, into our bedroom. Our bedroom. The king-sized bed we had picked out together 3 years ago, arguing good-naturedly about firmness levels and thread count. The dresser with the framed photos of our wedding day, both of us so young and happy and certain about forever. The closet where her side was noticeably emptier than usual. I opened her closet door, started looking through what remained. Her casual clothes were there, her work clothes, her gym outfits. But missing were several of her nicer dresses, the ones she wore when she wanted to look sophisticated. Missing were the shoes that went with those dresses. Missing was the small overnight bag she used for weekend trips. My stomach dropped. This wasn't just a dinner. This was potentially more than one night. I went back to the bedroom, started opening drawers. Her jewelry box on the dresser was there, but when I opened it, several pieces were missing. The pearl earrings her grandmother had given her. The diamond tennis bracelet I had spent 6 months saving for. The vintage Cartier watch she had inherited from her aunt. These weren't things she would wear to a casual dinner. These were things she would take if she was going away for a while. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I grabbed it desperately, hoping it was Emily calling back with some explanation that would make all of this make sense. Instead, It was another message from the unknown number. I'm Jake. I was your waiter tonight at Bella Luna. Been working there 6 months. Recognized her from your Christmas party at the office. Recognized him too. Figured you deserved to know. They've been coming in every Tuesday night for the past 2 months. Always the same table. Always very close. Sorry, man. 2 months. Every Tuesday for 2 months. I thought back, trying to remember where Emily said she was on Tuesday nights. Book club. She had told me she joined a book club with some friends from her yoga studio. Tuesday nights, 7 to 9. Then sometimes they'd go out for drinks after, so she'd be home late. Don't wait up, she'd say. You need your sleep for work. I'll be quiet when I come in. And I had believed her. Every single Tuesday, I had believed her. I sat down on the edge of our bed, the photo still glowing on my phone screen. 2 months of lies. 2 months of her getting dressed up, kissing me goodbye, telling me she was going to discuss books with friends, and then driving across town to meet my business partner at an expensive restaurant where they held hands and gazed at each other like teenagers in love. 2 months of deception so thorough, so practiced, that I had never once suspected. But that wasn't true, was it? A small voice in my head reminded me of the moments I had dismissed, the small inconsistencies I had explained away, the way she'd started keeping her phone face down on surfaces, the new password on her laptop that she said was for security, the suddenly fuller social calendar, all these friends and activities I never quite met or saw evidence of. The distance in bed, how she'd started staying on her side, how intimacy had become occasional and perfunctory rather than spontaneous and joyful. The way she'd stopped asking about my day, stopped sharing details about hers, stopped engaging in the easy conversation that had always been the foundation of our relationship. I had noticed all of it, but I had convinced myself it was normal, that this was just what happened after 10 years of marriage, that people grew comfortable, that passion evolved into companionship, that it was natural for couples to develop more independent lives. I had told myself I was being secure, being mature, being understanding by not questioning her need for space and autonomy. Now I realized I had just been a fool. My phone rang, Emily's name on the screen. I answered before the first ring finished, my voice coming out harsher than I intended. Where are you? There was a pause, a hesitation that told me everything. I'm at book club. We're just finishing up. Why? Is everything okay? Book club, I repeated, my voice flat. You're at book club right now. Yes. Ryan, what's going on? You sound strange. What book are you reading? I asked. Another pause, longer this time. What? At your book club. What book are you discussing tonight? Ryan, I don't understand why. Just answer the question, Emily. What book are you reading at your book club that meets every Tuesday night? The silence that followed was deafening. I could hear background noise, the murmur of conversation and clinking of dishes and soft music. Restaurant sounds, not book club sounds. The Silent Patient, she finally said, her voice small. We're reading The Silent Patient. I almost laughed. The absurdity of her maintaining the lie even now, when she had to know I knew. That's interesting, because I'm looking at a photo of you right now, at Bella Luna, with Marcus, having dinner, in the green dress, at your regular Tuesday night table. The silence that followed was different, heavy with caught breath and racing thoughts. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. Ryan, don't, I interrupted. Don't say my name like that. Don't say anything except the truth. How long? How long what? She was stalling. I could hear it in her voice, trying to figure out how much I knew, how much she could still deny. How long have you been having an affair with Marcus? I'm not, Ryan, it's not like that. How long? Each word came out like a stone dropping into still water. I heard her inhale shakily, heard what might have been a sob, or might have been just a breath. 3 months, she admitted. 3 months ago, it started. 3 months. Not 2. Like the waiter said. She'd been careful at first, meeting somewhere else, somewhere they wouldn't be recognized. Bella Luna was just the latest venue, the place where they'd gotten comfortable enough to risk being seen. 3 months of active deception. 3 months of coming home to me, kissing me hello, asking about my day, lying in our bed, all while carrying on with my business partner. Are you in love with him? I asked, and hated how my voice cracked on the question. Another pause, then quietly. I don't know. Maybe. I think so. Ryan, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. It developed. We were working late on the Jensen account and we were talking and something just clicked between us. I tried to resist it. I really did. But he understands me in ways that you don't anymore. He listens to me. He sees me. I felt something cold settle in my chest, replacing the hot panic of a few minutes ago. I see you, I said. I see you perfectly. I see a woman who lied to her husband for 3 months. I see a woman who's having an affair with her husband's business partner. I see a woman who just destroyed everything we built together. Ryan, please, let me explain. Come home, I said. Right now. Come home so we can talk about this face to face. I can't, she said. I can't just leave right now. We need to finish dinner. People will notice. The audacity of that statement nearly broke me. She couldn't leave her romantic dinner with her lover because people might notice, but she could destroy her marriage, and apparently that was fine. I laughed, a bitter sound that didn't contain any humor. You're right. Wouldn't want to make a scene. Finish your dinner with Marcus. Take your time, but when you're done, don't come home. Go somewhere else. A hotel? A friend's place? His place for all I care. Just don't come here. Ryan, you're being unreasonable. I'm being unreasonable? My voice rose despite my efforts to control it. Emily, you're sitting in a restaurant with another man right now, wearing the dress I bought you, probably planning to go back to his place afterward, and I'm the one being unreasonable. That's not. We weren't going to. Ryan, it's not what you think. Then what is it? I challenged. Explain it to me. Make me understand how this is anything other than what it obviously is. She was crying now. I could hear it in her breathing. I love you, Ryan. I do. But I'm also in love with Marcus. I know that doesn't make sense. I know it's not fair, but I can't help how I feel. And I can't keep pretending that everything is fine between us when it hasn't been fine for a long time. What do you mean it hasn't been fine? I asked, genuinely confused. Emily, I thought we were happy. I thought we were building a life together. You thought, she repeated. You thought we were happy because you weren't paying attention. Ryan, when was the last time we had a real conversation? When was the last time you asked me about something other than what's for dinner or whether I picked up your dry cleaning? When was the last time you really looked at me? Her words hit like accusations, and maybe they were. Maybe I had been distracted. Work had been demanding lately. The company growing faster than we'd expected. More clients, more projects, more hours needed. But I'd been doing it for us, for our future, for the life we were planning, hadn't I? So, you're saying this is my fault? I asked. I worked too much, didn't pay enough attention, and that justified you sleeping with Marcus? I'm not trying to justify it, she said, sounding exhausted. I'm trying to explain how we got here. Marcus and I were working together on the Jensen account. We were spending long hours at the office talking, really talking, about everything, about life and dreams and fears. And somewhere in all those conversations, we connected. And that connection became feelings. And those feelings became more. When did it become physical? I asked, needing to know, even though the answer would hurt. She was quiet for so long I thought she might not answer. Then, 6 weeks ago, after the company anniversary party, we went to his place to keep celebrating, and it just happened. The company anniversary party. I remembered that night. I had left early because I had a morning meeting with potential investors. Emily had said she'd catch a ride home with someone else, that she wanted to stay and celebrate. I had kissed her goodbye, told her not to stay out too late and driven home alone. And she had gone home with Marcus. She had made love to him while I was asleep in our bed, probably waiting for her, probably worrying slightly when it got late. Have you been to his place since then? I asked. Yes, she admitted. Usually after our dinners, we'd go back to his place for a few hours, then I'd come home. So every Tuesday night for the past 6 weeks, you've been having dinner with Marcus and then going to his apartment and then coming home to me, coming into our bed, lying next to me, pretending everything was normal. Ryan, answer the question, Emily. Is that what you've been doing? Yes, she whispered. Yes, that's what I've been doing, and I hate myself for it, but I can't seem to stop. When I'm with him, everything feels right, and when I'm home with you, everything feels wrong, and I don't know how to fix that. You fix it by being honest, I said, my voice hard. You fix it by ending one relationship before you start another. You fix it by having even a shred of respect for the person you married and the vows you made. I know, she said, crying harder now. I know I've handled this terribly. I know I should have told you, but I was scared. Scared of hurting you. Scared of losing you. Scared of having to choose. You already chose, I said. The moment you kissed him. The moment you went to his apartment. The moment you lied to me about where you were and what you were doing. You chose Marcus over me and over our marriage. You just didn't have the courage to admit it. That's not fair, she protested weakly. Nothing about this is fair, I shot back. But here we are. So what happens now, Emily? What's your plan? Were you going to keep this going indefinitely? See how long you could maintain 2 relationships? Or were you planning to eventually leave me for him? I don't know, she admitted. I honestly don't know. I've been trying to figure it out, trying to understand my feelings, trying to decide what I want. Well, let me make it easier for you, I said, surprising myself with how calm my voice sounded. I'm not going to be anyone's backup plan. I'm not going to sit around while you figure out whether I'm good enough compared to Marcus. So here's what's going to happen. You have until Sunday to move your things out of the house. Take whatever you want. I don't care anymore. But by Sunday night, you're gone. Ryan, please, we need to talk about this properly. We need to see a counselor. We can work through this. There's nothing to work through, I interrupted. You made your choice. Now you get to live with it. Enjoy the rest of your dinner. I'm sure Marcus is getting worried about how long you've been on the phone. I hung up before she could respond, before she could say anything else that would make this hurt more than it already did. I sat there on our bed, in our bedroom, in the house we had bought together 5 years ago, with such excitement and hope, and I felt completely numb. The shock was wearing off, replaced by a vast, hollow emptiness that stretched out in all directions. My phone buzzed, Emily calling back. I declined the call. It buzzed again immediately, declined again. Finally, I turned the phone off completely and sat in the silence of our empty house. That's when the numbness broke and the anger came rushing in to fill the void. Not the hot, explosive kind of anger that makes you want to break things or shout or confront, but the cold, calculated kind of anger that makes you think clearly, that makes you plan. They had betrayed me together, my wife and my business partner, the 2 people I trusted most in the world. They had been carrying on behind my back, probably laughing at how oblivious I was, probably feeling clever about how well they were managing to deceive me. And now they were going to face the consequences together. I turned my phone back on, ignoring the string of missed calls and texts from Emily. Instead, I opened my contacts and found the number for David, my lawyer. David and I had gone to college together, had stayed friends through the years. He handled all my legal affairs, both personal and business. He'd drawn up the partnership agreement between Marcus and me. He knew every detail of how our company was structured, and he was about to earn his retainer fee. David answered on the 3rd ring, his voice carrying the comfortable casualness of a friend who wasn't expecting bad news. Ryan, how's it going? Little late for a work call, isn't it? I need you, I said simply. Tonight if possible, tomorrow morning at the latest. Emily's been having an affair with Marcus. I'm filing for divorce and I need to know my options for the business. The silence that followed was sharp with shock. Then, Jesus, Ryan, are you sure? I have photos. I have a timeline. I have her admission on a recorded phone call. In my anger, I'd forgotten about that last part. I didn't know if the call was actually recorded, but the certainty in my voice made it sound true. Okay, David said, his voice shifting into professional mode. Okay, first things first. Don't do anything rash tonight. Don't make any decisions in anger. Tomorrow morning, first thing, come to my office. We'll go through everything. But Ryan, you need to understand, if Marcus is involved, this is going to get complicated. The business, the assets, everything is tangled up together. I know, I said. That's why I need you. I'll be ready, he assured me. 9 a.m. tomorrow. And Ryan, I'm sorry. I really am. After we hung up, I sat in the silence of the bedroom and let myself really think about what the past 10 years had been. Emily and I had met at a conference, one of those terrible corporate networking events where everyone stands around making small talk and pretending to be interested in each other's elevator pitches. She had been working for a marketing firm. I had just started my own software consulting company with Marcus. We'd both been reaching for the same sad-looking sandwich at the buffet, had laughed about it, had started talking. By the end of the night, I had her number. By the end of the month, we were dating. By the end of the year, we were living together. She'd been everything I thought I wanted. Smart, funny, beautiful, ambitious. She understood the demands of building a business because she was building her own career. She didn't complain when I worked late or traveled for client meetings. She had her own life, her own friends, her own interests. We fit together easily, complementing each other without crowding each other. The proposal had been spontaneous, on a beach in Mexico, both of us sunburned and happy. She'd cried when she said yes. The wedding had been small, just family and close friends, exactly what we both wanted, and for years it had been good. We'd built a life together, bought this house, adopted a dog that died 2 years ago, and we'd both cried over. hosted dinner parties and went on vacations and made plans for the future. We'd talked about having kids someday, maybe when the business was more established, when her career was more stable, when we were ready. We'd been waiting for the right time, and while we waited, apparently she'd found something else, someone else, to fill whatever void I had failed to notice. Marcus. I couldn't even process that part yet. Marcus Webb, who I'd known since grad school. We'd been in the same entrepreneurship program, had bonded over late-night study sessions, and shared frustrations with our professors. When I decided to start a consulting firm, he'd been the first person I'd asked to join me. We'd been equal partners from the beginning, 50-50 split on everything. We'd built the company from nothing, working out of my one-bedroom apartment, taking whatever clients we could get, slowly building a reputation. 8 years later, we had an office with 20 employees, a client list that included several Fortune 500 companies, and revenue that would have seemed impossible when we started. I trusted Marcus completely. He handled the client relationships while I focused on the technical work. We complemented each other, just like Emily and I supposedly had. He was the extrovert, the schmoozer, the guy who could sell ice to someone in winter. I was the introvert, the problem solver, the guy who could take a client's vague idea and turn it into actual working software. Together, we were successful, and now I was going to have to figure out how to untangle that success while also untangling my marriage, because apparently the two betrayals were connected. I realized I didn't even know if Marcus was married, if he had been married, if there was someone else he was betraying to be with Emily. I'd never asked about his personal life beyond surface-level pleasantries. He dated, I knew that. There had been various women at company functions over the years, but no one serious, no one who lasted. Now I wondered if that was because he'd been waiting for Emily, or maybe he was just the kind of person who didn't value commitment, who saw relationships as transactions rather than partnerships. My phone buzzed again. Not Emily this time, but Marcus. I stared at his name on the screen, feeling my jaw clench. I let it ring through to voicemail, then listened to the message he left. Ryan, man, I know you know. Emily told me you called. Listen, I need to talk to you. This isn't what you think. Well, it is what you think, but it's also more complicated than that. I never meant for this to happen. You have to believe that. Call me back, please. We need to talk about this before you do anything. The business, everything we've built, we can't let this destroy that. Call me back. The sheer audacity of that message stunned me. He'd been sleeping with my wife for 6 weeks, carrying on an affair right under my nose, and he was worried about the business? He was worried about protecting what we'd built professionally while destroying what I'd built personally? The anger that had been cold and calculating started to heat up, started to burn. I needed to get out of the house. Being in our bedroom, surrounded by evidence of the life we'd shared, was suffocating. I grabbed my keys and wallet, headed for the garage. My car, a sensible sedan I'd bought 3 years ago when my old one finally gave up, sat next to Emily's spot, which was empty because she was still at her romantic dinner. I got in, started the engine, and just drove with no destination in mind. I ended up at a bar I'd never been to before, a quiet place on the edge of town that looked like it catered to people who wanted to drink alone without being bothered. Perfect. I sat at the bar, ordered a whiskey, drank it too fast, ordered another. The bartender, a woman in her 50s with knowing eyes, didn't try to make conversation. She just kept my glass full and let me sit there with my thoughts. I pulled out my phone, scrolled through photos of Emily and me. Our wedding day, both of us so young and hopeful. A vacation in Colorado, hiking in the mountains. Christmas morning last year, her laughing as she opened a present. Our anniversary dinner 2 months ago, sitting across from each other at a restaurant, not unlike Bella Luna, holding hands across the table. Had she been seeing Marcus then? Had she been thinking about him while sitting across from me? Had every smile, every kiss, every "I love you" been a lie? I thought about the sacrifices I'd made for our life together. The job offer I'd turned down 3 years ago that would have required relocating to Seattle. It would have meant great money and advancement. But Emily's career was here, her family was here, so I'd stayed. The long hours I'd worked, building the company, making sure we'd have financial security. The compromise on the house we bought, taking something smaller than I wanted because she loved the neighborhood. The dog we adopted because she wanted one, even though I'd been allergic and had spent 2 years on medication so we could keep it. None of it had been major sacrifices at the time. They'd felt like the natural give and take of a partnership. But now, looking back, they felt like evidence of an imbalance I'd been too blind to see. What had Emily sacrificed for me? For us? I tried to think of specific examples and came up embarrassingly short. She'd stayed in her marketing job, which she loved. She'd kept her friends, her hobbies, her independence. I'd never asked her to give up anything. I'd supported every goal, every ambition, every interest. And maybe that was the problem. Maybe in trying to be the perfect supportive husband, I'd become invisible. Maybe she'd needed someone who challenged her, who demanded something from her, who made her work for the relationship instead of just accepting whatever she was willing to give. Or maybe I was just making excuses for her. Maybe this wasn't about what I did or didn't do. Maybe it was just about Emily being selfish and Marcus being willing to help her betray me. Maybe some people were just capable of that kind of behavior, and no amount of analysis would make it make sense to someone like me who valued loyalty and honesty. The bartender refilled my glass without being asked. I nodded my thanks, drank more slowly this time. My phone buzzed continuously in my pocket, probably Emily still trying to call, still trying to explain or justify or whatever she thought she needed to say. I didn't care. There was nothing she could say that would change what had happened, nothing that would erase the betrayal. I thought about tomorrow morning's meeting with David, about what needed to happen next. The divorce would be straightforward enough. We didn't have kids. Our finances were separate for the most part. The house was in both names, but I had proof of making larger contributions to the mortgage. I'd let her have whatever she wanted from it as long as I could keep the house. Or maybe I'd sell it, start completely fresh somewhere else. The thought had appeal. The business was more complicated. Marcus and I were equal partners. We both had signing authority on accounts, both our names on the lease for the office, both of us essential to operations. I couldn't just kick him out. We'd need to either find a way to work together despite this, which seemed impossible, or one of us would need to buy the other out. And given that he was the one who managed client relationships, he might argue that he was more valuable to the company's continued success. The thought of having to pay him to leave the company we'd built together made me sick. But that was tomorrow's problem. Tonight was just about processing the shock, about accepting that my life as I knew it was over. Everything I'd built, everything I'd believed in, had been revealed as an illusion. My marriage, my partnership, my trust in the people closest to me, all of it was gone. I finished my drink, paid my tab, and drove home carefully, very aware that I was probably over the legal limit, but needing to be in my own space more than I cared about the risk. The house was still empty when I got there. Emily still at her dinner or wherever she'd gone after. Part of me hoped she'd ignore my instruction to stay away tonight, hoped she'd come home so we could have it out properly. But most of me was glad for the solitude, for the time to think and plan without having to see her face or hear her excuses. I went to the spare bedroom, the one we'd been using for storage and as a home gym, pulled out the air mattress we kept for guests and inflated it. I couldn't sleep in our bed tonight, couldn't lie in the sheets where we'd been together, where we'd shared intimacy while she was also sharing it with Marcus. The spare room would do for now. Tomorrow I'd figure out something more permanent. As I lay there in the darkness, staring at the ceiling, I kept coming back to one question. When had I lost her? When had the woman I married, the woman who'd seemed so committed to our life together, become someone who could do this? Was it gradual, a slow drift over months or years? Or was it sudden, a moment of connection with Marcus that overwhelmed everything else? And did it even matter? The result was the same either way. My phone lit up on the floor next to the air mattress. Another text from Emily. Against my better judgment, I picked it up and read it. Ryan, please, I know I don't deserve it, but please let me come home tonight. I promise I'll sleep on the couch. I just need to see you, to try to explain face to face. Marcus and I left the restaurant separately. I'm in my car, parked a few blocks from the house. I'm scared to come in without your permission, please. I stared at that message for a long time, my thumb hovering over the reply button. Part of me wanted to let her come in, wanted to hear whatever explanation she thought she had, wanted to see her face and try to understand how we'd gotten here. But the larger part of me knew that nothing she said tonight would change anything. We were beyond explanations. We were beyond fixing. We were done. I typed out a reply, kept it short. Stay at a hotel tonight, or go to Marcus. I don't care which. But don't come here. We'll talk when I'm ready to talk, not before. Her response came immediately. Please, Ryan, please. I love you. I know I've destroyed everything, but I do love you. Let me come home. You should have thought about that before you destroyed everything. I typed back. You should have thought about that every Tuesday night for the past 2 months. You should have thought about that 6 weeks ago when you went home with Marcus. But you didn't. So now, you get to live with the consequences. Go to a hotel, Emily. That's all I have to say to you tonight. I turned off my phone completely after that, not wanting to see any more messages, not wanting to be tempted to engage. Tomorrow would be soon enough to deal with all of this. Tonight, I just needed to get through the hours of darkness, needed to somehow find a way to sleep despite the chaos in my head and the pain in my chest. But sleep didn't come. I lay there on the air mattress in our spare room, in the house we'd bought together, in the life we'd built together, and I felt more alone than I'd ever felt in my entire life. The woman I loved had betrayed me. The friend I trusted had betrayed me. And somewhere in the city tonight, the two of them were probably talking about me, about what would happen next, about how to minimize the damage to themselves. They'd be strategic, calculated, protecting their own interests while expecting me to just accept it all quietly. But they didn't know me as well as they thought they did. They didn't know that beneath my quiet, accommodating exterior was someone who could be absolutely ruthless when betrayed. They didn't know that I had built a successful business, not just through technical skill, but through understanding systems, understanding how things were connected, understanding how to take things apart and rebuild them exactly the way I wanted them. They thought I'd be easy to manage, easy to mollify, easy to keep as a business partner while they pursued their relationship. They were wrong. As dawn light started filtering through the curtains of the spare room, I lay there forming plans. By the time the sun was fully up, I knew exactly what I was going to do. David would help me with the legal aspects, but I didn't need a lawyer to tell me the moral aspects, the justice aspects, the making them face consequences aspects. That was all mine to orchestrate. Emily and Marcus had made their choice. Now they were going to discover what it cost them, and I was going to make sure that cost was steep. I was sitting in David's office at 8:45 a.m., 15 minutes early, nursing a coffee from the shop downstairs that tasted like cardboard, but at least was hot. I hadn't slept. Every time I'd closed my eyes, I'd seen that photo. Emily and Marcus holding hands across the table, intimate and comfortable, like they'd been doing it forever, which apparently they had been. David walked in at 8:52, took one look at me, and his professional expression shifted to genuine concern. "You look terrible," he said bluntly, setting his briefcase on the desk. "When's the last time you ate something?" I couldn't remember. Yesterday's lunch, maybe. "I'm fine. Let's just get to work." He sat down across from me, pulled out a legal pad and pen. Old school David. He'd never trusted laptops for client meetings, said writing things down by hand helped him think better. "Okay, walk me through everything. Start from the beginning." I told him about the photo, about calling Emily, about her confession, about the Tuesday night dinners and the 6 weeks of physical involvement and the 3 months total of deception. I told him about Marcus's voicemail, about Emily's texts begging to come home. David took notes, his expression growing darker as I talked. When I finished, he sat back in his chair and rubbed his face with both hands. "This is a mess," he said, "a complete mess. But we can work with it. First, the marriage. Texas is a no-fault divorce state, so Emily's affair doesn't technically matter in terms of asset division. But it does give us leverage in negotiations. She's going to feel guilty, and guilt makes people willing to settle quickly and favorably. You said you want the house? Yes, I want the house, and I want out as fast as possible. We can do that. The house is in both names, but you've been making the mortgage payments from your income, correct? Mostly, yes. She's contributed to some of the maintenance costs, but the regular payments come from my account. Good, that helps. We'll offer her a clean split of other assets in exchange for her signing over the house to you. No alimony on either side. Quick and simple. If she doesn't want the scandal of a drawn-out divorce where her affair becomes public record, she'll agree. What about the business? I asked, getting to the part that really concerned me. David's expression grew more complicated. That's where it gets tricky. You and Marcus are equal partners with equal ownership stakes. The partnership agreement we drew up 8 years ago doesn't have a morality clause or any provision for one partner buying out another except in cases of death or disability. So legally, you're stuck with each other unless you can come to a mutual agreement. I want him out, I said flatly. I don't care what it costs. I want him gone from the company. I understand that. I really do. But Ryan, the company is worth approximately $4.2 million based on last year's valuation. Marcus owns half of that. If you want to buy him out, you're looking at paying him $2.1 million. Do you have that kind of liquid capital? I didn't. Most of my wealth was tied up in the company itself. I had maybe $300,000 in savings and investments. No, but there has to be another way. There is, David said slowly. You could force a dissolution of the partnership. Essentially, you'd be shutting down the company, liquidating assets, and dividing the proceeds. But that would mean you'd lose the business entirely. All those client relationships, all that goodwill, all the employees who depend on you for their livelihoods, gone. That can't be the only option. It's not. Option 3 is you convince Marcus to sell his share to you at a discount, or you find an outside investor willing to buy him out, or you agree to let him buy you out instead. But given that he's the one who manages client relationships, he might argue that he should be the one to keep the company. The thought of Marcus getting the company we'd built together, getting to keep our employees and clients and success, while I walked away with nothing but money, made my stomach turn. No, that's not acceptable. Then we need to get creative, David said. Tell me everything about the business structure, every detail, how client relationships work, who does what, what's documented versus what's informal. If we're going to find leverage to force Marcus out, we need to understand every angle. I spent the next 2 hours going through the company's operations in exhaustive detail. David asked questions, took notes, occasionally stopped me to clarify a point. We talked about client contracts and who signed them. We talked about intellectual property and who technically owned what. We talked about the employees and their contracts and their loyalties. Slowly, a picture emerged. Here's what I'm seeing, David said finally. The majority of your revenue comes from 3 major clients: Hyperion Tech, Jensen Industries, and Cascade Financial. Those 3 accounts represent about 70% of your total income. Is that accurate? Yes. We have other smaller clients, but those 3 are the foundation. And Marcus manages those relationships. He's the point of contact, the one who does the pitches and the renewals. Right, but I'm the one who actually does the work. I'm the technical lead on all 3 accounts. Marcus sells them. I deliver. So if Marcus left, would those clients leave with him? I thought about it carefully. It depends. The contracts are with our company, not with Marcus personally. But relationships matter in this business. If Marcus left and took those clients with him, we'd lose most of our revenue overnight. But could you service those clients without Marcus? Could you maintain those relationships yourself? Technically, yes. I know the clients. I talk to their technical teams regularly. Marcus handles the executive-level relationships, but I have connections at the working level. David leaned forward. Then here's what I'm thinking. We make Marcus an offer. He can take a buyout at a significant discount, or we can make his life at the company extremely uncomfortable. We document every instance of his affair with your wife that happened during business hours or using company resources. We review every expense report, every client meeting, looking for anything questionable. We make it clear that if he doesn't leave quietly, we'll make sure every client, every employee, and every potential future employer knows exactly what kind of person he is. That's blackmail, I said. No, David corrected. Blackmail is threatening to reveal information unless someone pays you money or does something illegal. This is leverage in a business negotiation. If Marcus has been using company time or resources to conduct an affair, that's a violation of his fiduciary duty to the partnership. If he's been billing personal expenses to the company, that's embezzlement. We're just pointing out that a closer examination of his behavior might reveal things that would be professionally damaging, and suggesting that perhaps it would be in everyone's best interest if he exited quietly. I sat with that for a moment. It felt dirty, manipulative, not like the kind of person I wanted to be. But then again, Marcus and Emily had manipulated me for 3 months without any apparent moral qualms. Maybe it was time to fight with the same weapons they'd been using. How much of a discount are we talking about? I asked. I'd start by offering him $800,000 for his share. That's roughly 40% of what it's actually worth. He'll counter, obviously, but if we can settle around $1 million, $1.2 million, that's achievable for you with a business loan backed by the company assets. And if he refuses, then we go to war. We force dissolution, liquidate everything, and let the chips fall where they may. But I don't think it'll come to that. Marcus is going to want to avoid the professional fallout of this becoming public. He works in a relationship-based business. If word gets out that he's been having an affair with his business partner's wife, clients are going to question his ethics. Future employers are going to question his judgment. He'll want to settle quickly and quietly. I nodded slowly. Okay, let's do it. Draw up the offer. But David, I want one more thing. What's that? I want you to contact our 3 major clients. Not officially, just informal conversations. Feel them out about their loyalty to the company versus their loyalty to Marcus. Find out if they'd be willing to sign letters affirming that their contracts are with our firm, not with Marcus personally. I need to know if I can actually survive without him before I force him out. That's smart, David approved. I'll make some calls today. In the meantime, you need to go home, get some sleep, and eat something. You're no good to anyone if you collapse from exhaustion. One more thing, I said. Emily, I don't want to see her or talk to her. Can you handle the divorce communication? Be the go-between? Of course. I'll draft a letter today informing her that all communication should go through me. But Ryan, at some point, you're going to have to face this emotionally, not just legally. You can't just lawyer your way through heartbreak. Watch me, I said, standing up. Right now, action is the only thing keeping me from falling apart. So I'm going to keep acting until there's nothing left to do. I left David's office and sat in my car in the parking garage for a long moment, trying to decide where to go. I couldn't go to the office. Marcus would be there, and I wasn't ready to face him yet. I couldn't go home. The house felt contaminated now, full of memories that had been revealed as lies. So I drove to the only place that had ever felt truly mine, my childhood home. My parents still lived in the same house where I'd grown up, a modest ranch style in a quiet suburb. My mother answered the door, took one look at my face, and pulled me into a hug without asking any questions. She led me to the kitchen, sat me down at the table where I'd eaten thousands of meals growing up, and started making breakfast without a word. My father came in from the garage where he'd been working on something, saw me, and sat down across from me with the same quiet, steady presence he'd always had. What happened? He asked simply. I told them. My mother stopped cooking and came to sit next to me, holding my hand. My father's expression grew darker and darker. When I finished, my mother was crying and my father looked like he wanted to punch something. That boy was in our home, my mother said, her voice shaking. Marcus was at our Christmas party. He ate my food. He smiled at us and pretended to be your friend while he was doing this. And Emily, my father added, his voice hard. We welcomed her into this family. We treated her like our own daughter. This is how she repays that? I don't want to talk about them, I said. I just needed to be somewhere that felt safe, somewhere that felt real. My mother squeezed my hand. You can stay here as long as you need. Your room is exactly like you left it. I ended up sleeping in my childhood bedroom that afternoon, collapsing into the same twin bed I'd slept in through high school and college breaks, surrounded by old posters and books and the accumulated nostalgia of a life before any of this happened. When I woke up, it was dark outside, and I could smell dinner cooking. I went downstairs to find both my parents in the kitchen, working together on a meal the way they'd been doing for 40 years of marriage. Feeling better? My mother asked. A little. I sat down at the table. Mom, Dad, can I ask you something? How do you do it? How do you stay married for 40 years? How do you trust someone that completely? My parents exchanged a look, one of those wordless communications that long married couples develop. My father spoke first. Marriage isn't about trust, son. Not really. It's about choosing each other every single day, even when you don't feel like it, even when you're angry or hurt or frustrated. Your mother and I have had plenty of moments over the years where we could have walked away. Times when we made each other angry or disappointed each other or just plain got on each other's nerves, but we chose to stay. That's the difference. Emily didn't choose me, I said quietly. No, my mother agreed. She didn't. And that's on her, not on you. You did everything right, Ryan. You were a good husband. You were faithful and supportive and loving. The failure here isn't yours. Then why does it feel like I must have done something wrong? Like if I'd just been better somehow, more attentive or more interesting or more something, she wouldn't have needed to look elsewhere. Because that's what betrayed people always think, my father said. They always blame themselves first. But son, you could have been perfect, and she still might have done this. Some people are just broken inside in ways that make them incapable of honoring their commitments. That's not a reflection on you. We ate dinner together, the three of us, and for a few hours, I let myself feel like a kid again, safe and protected in my parents' home. But eventually, my phone started buzzing with messages I couldn't ignore any longer. David had sent several updates. He'd spoken to 2 of our 3 major clients. Both had agreed to sign letters affirming their loyalty to the company, not to Marcus personally. The 3rd client, Hyperion Tech, wanted to schedule a call with me directly before committing. There was also a message from Marcus. I almost deleted it without reading, but curiosity got the better of me. Ryan, we need to talk. Tomorrow, lunch at the office. Just you and me. We can't avoid this forever. I know I've destroyed our friendship, but we still have a business to run. Please." I showed the message to my father. "What should I do?" "Face him," my father said, without hesitation. "Not because he deserves it, but because you need to. You need to look him in the eye and let him see what he's done. You need to take back your power in this situation." The next morning, I drove to the office for the first time since receiving that photo. It was early, 7 a.m., before most of the staff would arrive. I wanted to go through our financial records, our client files, everything, looking for ammunition. David's suggestion about finding questionable expenses or misuse of company resources had given me an idea. I spent 3 hours going through expense reports, credit card statements, calendar entries, and email records, and what I found was illuminating. Marcus had been sloppy. Dinners at Bella Luna charged to the company card, listed as client entertainment with no client names attached. Hotel rooms booked on nights when there were no business trips scheduled. Afternoons blocked off on his calendar as off-site meetings with no details. None of it was smoking gun evidence, but taken together, it painted a picture of someone using company resources for personal activities. I was still compiling my findings when Marcus walked in at 10 a.m. He stopped in the doorway of my office, and for a moment, we just looked at each other. He looked tired, I noticed. "Good. Ryan," he said carefully. "Thank you for being here. Can we talk?" "We're talking now," I said, not inviting him to sit down. He came in anyway, closed the door behind him, stood awkwardly in the middle of my office. "I don't even know where to start. I'm sorry. I know that's inadequate, but I am. I never meant for any of this to happen." "You never meant for me to find out," I corrected. "That's different from never meaning for it to happen. You made a choice to pursue my wife, Marcus. Multiple choices, actually, over the course of 3 months. Don't stand there and act like this just happened to you." "You're right," he admitted. "You're absolutely right. I made terrible choices. I betrayed your trust in the worst possible way, and I've been trying to figure out how to explain it, but there is no explanation that makes it okay." "Then don't explain. Just tell me what you want." He shifted his weight, uncomfortable. "I want to find a way to keep the company together. Whatever happened between Emily and me, we built this business together, Ryan. 8 years of work, 20 employees depending on us, clients who trust us. We can't let it all fall apart because of this. You should have thought about that before you started sleeping with my wife. I know. Believe me, I know. But we can compartmentalize this. We can keep the personal separate from the professional. We're both adults. We can work together even if we're not friends anymore." I laughed, a harsh sound. "You think I want to work with you? You think I want to see your face every day? Wondering if you're thinking about my wife? Wondering if you two are still in contact? Marcus, the only question here is how we're going to separate, not whether." His expression changed, hardening slightly. "You can't force me out. I own half this company. I've put just as much work into it as you have. I know. That's why I'm giving you a choice." I pulled out the folder I'd prepared, slid it across the desk. "Option 1. You sell me your share of the company for $800,000. You walk away quietly. We tell the employees and clients you're pursuing other opportunities, and everyone moves on with their lives." He picked up the folder, scanned the papers inside. $800,000? "Ryan, my half is worth over $2 million. Your half was worth over $2 million before you destroyed our partnership by having an affair with my wife. Now it's worth whatever I'm willing to pay for it. $800,000 is a generous offer considering the alternative." "What alternative?" I pulled out the second folder, the one with expense reports and calendar entries. "The alternative is I start looking very closely at how you've been using company resources. These dinners at Bella Luna that you charged to the company card while you were there with Emily. These hotel rooms with no documented business purpose. These blocked off calendar entries with no details. I'm sure if I dig deeper, I'll find more. And then I'll have a conversation with our clients about whether they want to continue doing business with someone who's been embezzling from his own company." "That's not embezzlement," Marcus protested. "Those were legitimate business expenses." "Were they? Then you won't mind me asking you to provide documentation for each one? Client names, meeting agendas, outcomes. I'm sure you kept detailed records." His face had gone pale. "You're bluffing. You wouldn't actually do that. It would damage the company." "Try me," I said coldly. "I've already spoken to our major clients. They're loyal to the company and the work we do, not to you specifically. I've already lined up replacement client managers. I can survive without you, Marcus. The question is whether you can survive the professional fallout of this becoming public. Can you? Can you handle every future employer Googling your name and finding out that you had an affair with your business partner's wife and then embezzled company funds to support it? He sank into the chair across from my desk, the fight going out of him. This isn't you, Ryan. This vindictive, manipulative approach. This isn't who you are. You're right, it's not. But I learned from the best. You and Emily taught me that sometimes you have to be ruthless to protect yourself. So here we are, 800,000 or public destruction. Your choice. He was quiet for a long moment, staring at the folder in his hands. When he spoke again, his voice was barely above a whisper. You really hate me. No, I said honestly. I don't hate you. I feel nothing for you at all anymore. You're just a problem I need to solve. So solve it. Take the offer or don't. But decide today, because tomorrow I'm moving forward either way. I need time to think. You have until 5 p.m. After that, the offer drops to 700,000 and I start making phone calls. I stood up. Now get out of my office. He left without another word. I sat back down at my desk, my hands shaking with adrenaline. I'd never spoken to anyone like that before. I'd never been that cold, that calculating, that willing to destroy someone. And the scary part was how easy it had been, how natural it had felt to use the same manipulative tactics they'd used on me. At noon, I had my call with Hyperion Tech, our largest client. The CEO, Patricia Grant, was a no-nonsense woman in her 60s who had built her company from scratch. I'd always liked her directness. Ryan, she said when we connected, your lawyer called me yesterday asking about our loyalty to your firm. Want to tell me what's going on? I made a decision in that moment, to be honest. Marcus and I are dissolving our partnership. I'm buying him out. I wanted to make sure that our relationship with Hyperion would continue under my leadership. Why are you dissolving the partnership? She asked bluntly. Personal reasons that have made it impossible for us to continue working together. Does it have anything to do with the woman I saw him having dinner with last week? The one who kept touching his hand across the table? My heart stopped. You saw them? I was at Bella Luna with my husband. Marcus didn't see me, but I saw him. And I thought to myself, that doesn't look like a business dinner. When your lawyer called yesterday, I put 2 and 2 together. That was my wife, I said quietly. Patricia was silent for a moment. Then, I'm sorry, Ryan. That's terrible. But to answer your original question, yes, Hyperion will continue working with your firm. We've always valued the quality of your work. And frankly, you're the one who does the actual technical implementation. Marcus is a good salesman, but you're the one who delivers. If anything, I'm more confident in the company with you at the helm. Relief flooded through me. Thank you, Patricia. You have no idea how much that means. One more thing, she added. Whatever settlement you work out with Marcus, make sure it includes a non-compete clause. The last thing you need is him starting a competing firm and trying to poach your clients. Already in the contract, I assured her. After we hung up, I felt something shift inside me. I had my major clients secured. I had leverage over Marcus. I had the support of my family and my lawyer. For the first time since receiving that photo 2 days ago, I felt like I might actually survive this. At 4:47 p.m., Marcus knocked on my office door. I let him in. He looked defeated, exhausted, like he'd aged 10 years in the past few hours. I'll take the deal, he said. 800,000 for my share, but I want some conditions. I'm listening. I want 3 months to transition out, time to finish my current projects and hand off client relationships properly. I don't want to just abandon the work. 2 months, I countered. And during that time, you have 0 contact with Emily. If I find out you've spoken to her even once, the deal is off and we go to war. He flinched. She's not calling me anyway. She's been trying to get me to talk you into forgiving her. When I told her that wasn't going to happen, that you were done with both of us, she got angry, said I ruined her marriage for nothing. The irony of that statement was almost funny. So you two aren't continuing your epic romance? There was no epic romance, Marcus said bitterly. It was just an affair. A stupid, selfish affair that destroyed everything important in both our lives. She thought I'd leave my life and build a new one with her. I thought she'd stay with you, and I could have both the affair and our friendship. We were both delusional. Yes, you were. 2 months, Marcus. And I want it in writing that you'll sign a non-compete agreement. 5 years, 100-mile radius. If you violate it, you pay back the 800,000 plus damages. That's excessive. That's the deal. Take it or leave it. He took it. We signed the preliminary agreement that afternoon, pending lawyer review and final contracts. When he left my office for the last time as my partner, I felt nothing. No satisfaction, no anger, no sadness, just a vast, echoing emptiness where my friendship with him used to be. I worked late that night, going through client files and planning the restructuring I'd need to do once Marcus was gone. Around 9 p.m., my phone rang. Emily. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. What do you want? I asked. I want to talk to you. Really talk. Not through lawyers. Ryan, please, give me a chance to explain face to face. There's nothing to explain. You had an affair. You lied to me for 3 months. You destroyed our marriage. Those are facts that don't need explaining. But I need you to understand why, she said, crying now. I need you to understand that it wasn't because you did anything wrong. You were a good husband. You were kind and supportive and everything I thought I wanted. But somewhere along the way, I realized I wasn't happy. I felt like I was disappearing into this life we'd built, like I was just playing a role instead of being myself. So you cheated on me instead of talking to me about it, instead of suggesting counseling or being honest about your feelings. You just went ahead and had an affair. I know it was wrong. But Ryan, being with Marcus made me feel alive again, made me feel like myself. And I know that sounds like a cliche, like something out of a bad romance novel, but it's true. Do you want to know what's also true? I asked, my voice hard. Marcus doesn't love you. I talked to him today. He told me you were pressuring him to be with you, to build a life together, and he's not interested. He said it was just an affair, Emily. Just something exciting and forbidden that was never meant to be real. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, barely audible, he told you that? He did. So congratulations. You destroyed our marriage for a man who doesn't actually want you. You gave up someone who loved you unconditionally for someone who just wanted the thrill of sneaking around. I hope it was worth it. Ryan, please, sign the divorce papers when David sends them. Take whatever you want from the house, except my personal things, and then disappear from my life completely. That's the only thing I want from you now. I hung up before she could respond, blocked her number, and went back to work. Over the next 8 weeks, I rebuilt my life, piece by piece. I hired a new client relations manager, a competent woman named Sarah, who came with excellent references and no complicated personal history. I promoted one of our senior developers to take over Marcus's technical oversight responsibilities. I met with every client personally to assure them of continued quality and service. I worked 16-hour days, threw myself completely into the business, used exhaustion as a tool to avoid thinking about anything else. The divorce was finalized on a Wednesday morning. David called to tell me the judge had signed the papers. Emily got a fair split of our non-house assets. I got the house, my company, and my freedom. We'd been married for 10 years. It was over in 10 minutes of court time. Marcus's last day was the following Friday. He cleaned out his office, said goodbye to the employees with some fabricated story about pursuing new opportunities, and left. I didn't say goodbye. I just watched from my office window as he loaded boxes into his car and drove away. 8 years of partnership ended, just like that. The house felt different without Emily's things in it. Emptier, but also cleaner somehow. I hired an interior designer to help me redecorate, change the color scheme, make it feel like mine rather than ours. I got a dog, something I'd always wanted but Emily had been allergic to. A rescue from the shelter. A mutt named Cooper, who slept at the foot of my bed and greeted me enthusiastically every time I came home. Simple joys I'd forgotten existed. 3 months after the photo, I was having dinner with my parents when my mother asked the question I'd been avoiding. How are you really doing, honey? Not the, I'm fine answer you give everyone. Really, I thought about it carefully. I'm not fine. I'm angry and hurt and betrayed. I feel stupid for not seeing what was happening. I feel like I wasted 10 years of my life on someone who didn't value me. But I'm also relieved to be out of a marriage with someone who could do that. Relieved to know the truth instead of living a lie. And I'm starting to feel hopeful that maybe someday I'll be able to trust someone again. You will, my father assured me. Give it time. The right person will come along when you're ready. I don't know if I'll ever be ready, I admitted. The thought of opening up to someone, of making myself vulnerable again, terrifies me. That's normal, my mother said gently. You've been traumatized, but you're also strong and resilient. You survived this. You'll survive what comes next. 6 months after the photo, the company was thriving. Revenue was up 20%. Employee morale had improved significantly. Clients were happy. I'd proven to myself and everyone else that I didn't need Marcus, that I was capable of running things on my own. More than capable, actually. better. I ran into Emily once at a coffee shop downtown. She was with a friend, laughing about something, looking genuinely happy in a way I hadn't seen in years. When she saw me, her smile faltered. We made eye contact across the room. I nodded once, a simple acknowledgement, and turned back to my order. I didn't need to speak to her. I didn't need closure or explanations or anything else from her. That chapter was closed. As I drove home that day, Cooper waiting for me in the yard, I could see him through the window. I realized something. The betrayal had been terrible, devastating, life-altering, but it had also been clarifying. It had shown me who people really were. It had taught me to trust my instincts. It had forced me to become stronger, more independent, more self-reliant. I wouldn't choose to go through it again, but I also wouldn't undo it because it had made me into someone I actually respected. The photo still existed somewhere on my phone, buried in deleted messages I'd never fully erased. Sometimes I thought about looking at it again, remembering that moment when everything changed, but I never did. I didn't need to. I remembered it perfectly without the visual aid, the candles, the intimate posture, the betrayal frozen in pixels. What I'd learned from that photo, from everything that followed, was this: love isn't enough. Commitment isn't enough. You also need honesty and respect and the willingness to choose your partner even when something else seems more exciting. Emily and Marcus had loved each other, maybe. They'd certainly desired each other, but they'd lacked the character to handle those feelings with integrity, and that was on them, not on me. A year after the photo, I was having drinks with David and some other friends when someone asked if I was seeing anyone. Not seriously, I said. I've been on a few dates, but nothing that's gone anywhere. Are you looking? One friend asked. Not really. If it happens, great. If not, I'm okay with that too. I've learned that being alone is better than being with the wrong person. That's very zen of you, David joked. It's not zen. It's just truth. I spent 10 years with someone who ultimately didn't value me or our relationship enough to stay faithful. I'm not willing to settle for that again. So either I find someone who's capable of real commitment, or I stay single. And honestly, single is pretty good. I've got my work, my dog, my family, my friends. I don't need a relationship to feel complete. Later that night, lying in bed with Cooper snoring beside me, I thought about the version of myself who had opened that photo a year ago. The man who'd thought his life was stable and secure and built on a foundation of trust. That man had been naive, maybe, blind to warning signs, too willing to believe the best of people. But he'd also been sincere and loyal and committed. And I didn't want to lose those qualities entirely, even if I needed to temper them with more caution. The waiter who'd sent me that photo had done me a favor. Jake from Bella Luna, who'd recognized Emily from our Christmas party and thought I deserved to know. I'd never met him, never thanked him, but I thought about him sometimes, about how it must have been a difficult decision to make, to insert himself into a stranger's personal life like that. But he'd done it anyway, had chosen to give me information I needed, even though it would cause me pain. Sometimes the kindest thing someone can do is tell you a truth you don't want to hear. The cruelest thing is letting you continue living a lie. I'd learned that the hard way, but I'd learned it, and I'd survived it, and eventually, I'd even thrived because of it. Today, I run a successful company. I have good relationships with my family and friends. I have a dog who loves me unconditionally. I have a life that's entirely mine, built on my own terms, without compromise or deception. Is it the life I planned when I was young and hopeful and getting married? No, it's better because it's real. Emily texted me once, about 6 months after the divorce finalized. She'd changed her number, but I recognized her tone. I'm sorry for everything. You deserved better. I hope you're happy. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say. She was right. I had deserved better. And I was happy, or getting there anyway, building a happiness that didn't depend on anyone else's choices. Marcus tried to friend me on LinkedIn once. I declined the request. Some bridges, once burned, shouldn't be rebuilt. Some betrayals can't be forgiven, not because you're holding a grudge, but because forgiveness would require pretending it didn't matter. And it mattered. It still matters. It shaped who I became. So here I am, a year later. Older, wiser, more cautious, but also more confident. I know my worth now. I know what I'll accept and what I won't. I know that I can survive devastating loss and come out stronger. I know that I'm capable of ruthlessness when necessary, but I also know that I don't want that to define me. What I learned from my wife having dinner with her lover, while a waiter took their picture and sent it to me, is this: the truth will always come out eventually. You can lie and hide and deceive, but somewhere, somehow, someone will notice. Someone will care enough to expose the deception. And when that moment comes, you have a choice. You can fall apart, or you can stand up. You can let the betrayal destroy you, or you can let it refine you. I chose to stand up. I chose to let it refine me, and I'd make that choice again. If you're reading this and you've been betrayed, I want you to know something. It gets better. Not immediately, not easily, but eventually. You will laugh again. You will trust again. You will love again, if you choose to. The pain that feels permanent right now is temporary. The strength you're building is permanent. You are not defined by someone else's inability to value you. You are defined by how you respond when you discover that truth. Choose strength, choose dignity, choose to build something better than what was broken. And if you ever find yourself sitting across from someone, holding their hand, being intimate in public while you're committed to someone else, remember this story. Remember that someone is always watching. Someone always knows. And the temporary thrill of forbidden romance is nothing compared to the permanent damage of destroyed trust. Choose better, be better, demand better from the people in your life. You deserve it. What would you do if you received a photo like that? How would you handle discovering your partner's betrayal? Share your thoughts in the comments. And if this story resonated with you, subscribe for more real stories about love, loss, and survival. Remember, the right person won't make you wonder. They'll make you certain.